Okay, assalamu alaikum everyone. We're gonna get started. Sorry for the delay. As often happens, at the right moment, the internet decided to take leave of us. But we'll go ahead. And since we're on a very tight schedule, I just want to start by first welcoming all parents, students, and educators who've joined us, and give a very warm thanks and welcome to all the parents who are helping us build this community. Since it's our first webinar session, I just want to quickly go over a couple of rules, three in fact. The first is that all questions asked of the panelists are generated by parents, and we'll continue to do so in the course of these webinars as well. The second, today, parents will not be able to ask questions using voice. However, the chat room is available, and our team will be recording questions parents ask, and they'll be addressed in the last 10 minutes of the question answer session. Finally, the purpose of these webinars is to share what we like to call King's knowledge. I know it's a lofty term, and it refers to knowledge you can only access if you're already part of a privileged group, such as Ivy League graduates, such as politicians who are sitting members of national assemblies, etc. For those with privilege, this knowledge ends up being free to use, and for those without privilege, it is inaccessible. King's knowledge is what Aristotle gave to Alexander, and in Alexander's life, that is what made all the difference. So with this in mind, the purpose of these webinars, indeed the purpose of the entire group, becomes to present our challenges and questions to experts and learn how they would go about, how they would approach addressing these challenges if they were faced with them in their personal lives, if they were faced with them for their children, for their siblings, etc. And it is not to ask questions that we can find answers to on Google or Chat GPT, not questions which require answering by a number, a date, a fact, but ways in which we can access thinking of these people we are incredibly grateful for to give us their time. So with this in mind, let's begin. It's my honor and privilege and pleasure to introduce our first guest, Mr. Shehryar Salamat, who is the Executive Director of Salamat Education, which runs the SciCas and Kids Campus schools. Shehryar is a double Ivy League graduate, earning his bachelor's degree from Dartmouth College and his master's at the Klingenstein Center of Private School Leadership at Columbia University, a program that I really wanted to attend myself. I invited Shehryar today because he has served many students and families with excellence, first as a teacher, then as a high school principal, and finally as the director of one of the oldest and most well-respected institutions in Lahore. My own son, Nail, attends Shehryar's school, and I could not be happier with how he's doing. Welcome, Shehryar, and thank you so much for joining us.
Assalamualaikum Ali, and Assalamualaikum everyone. Pleasure being here. Happy to be a part of the session and happy to share my experience and knowledge with you guys. So we'll take it as it comes.
Thank you, Shehryar. And our next guest is my very dear friend, Ms. Shanza Khan. Ms. Shanza is the founder of Eye on Ivy, a pioneering college placement agency. Shanza's unique and personalized approach has successfully placed numerous students in top-tier universities around the world. She is the former director of the Lahore chapter of the Harvard Club of Pakistan, something I tried to become and was not successful at again. Other than this, Shanza has also worked closely with esteemed organizations such as the Asian Development Bank and the World Bank. I invited Shanza today because, and I haven't said this to her yet, in my research into the work in Lahore, Shanza has the most ethical practices in the realm of college counseling and admissions. We're really grateful to have both Shanza as a practitioner in Lahore as well as joining us today to give us her time. Thank you so much, Shanza, for being here.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and thank you so much, Ali, for inviting me.
Of course, it's such a pleasure. So, guys, we have, parents have already submitted their questions to us. There's 10 of them. I'm going to go one each. So first to Shehryar, then to Shanza, and then we'll rotate this back and forth. And then at the end, once the first speaker has answered their question, you are most welcome to add on before I move on to the next question. So as a general rule, all these questions are fair game for both of you, though I'll direct them individually to each of you. Okay? Okay, so we'll start with Shehryar. Shehryar, it's a question from a parent for applying to colleges abroad. I want my kid to go study abroad, and I don't even know where to begin. how would you advise that parent?
I think first, a little bit of research is required from the parent side. Again, I'm speaking to not parents who have had generations of family members attend colleges abroad. I'm speaking to parents who perhaps are sending their child as the first generation who is looking to go for education abroad. So the first thing would be to do some legwork, some homework on the merits of the educational systems in various countries, and understanding what the drawbacks might be for sending your child to a college in Pakistan. So Pakistani colleges are unfortunately not ranked internationally. Many of them, maybe LUMS broke into the top 1,000 maybe, but generally speaking, Pakistani colleges and universities are not well recognized in the international market. So where to start is to first do some legwork on whether it's the right choice for your child, whether you can part with your 17 or 18-year-old son or daughter and live without them. It's a test of will for many parents to send them abroad into the wild west and make them fend for themselves. And of course, when you go abroad, you're not going to be seeing your child often, maybe once or twice a year, if at all. So that's the one of the sort of bottlenecks or the stumbling blocks when people think of sending their kid abroad. And I think many people don't even start this conversation because of this reason, that we don't want our young child to go overseas, and we want him to be part of our household, and there's no big need, no big advantage of getting just a BA abroad. Maybe I'll send him for the masters and keep him here for the BA. So those are some of the initial factors. And of course, the cost of education with the rising, for parents who are now thinking of sending their kid abroad, maybe the ones who have already sent, they didn't have this issue to deal with, but with the currency devaluation, the cost of education abroad has skyrocketed. So just looking at your own financial situation and to see what the cost of education, how does it vary from Pakistan versus abroad, and this is something that I tell many students and parents, that think of your budget for a Pakistani college and see if you can find the equivalent opportunity abroad without you spending more. And there are many such, as Shanza will tell you, there are many such opportunities around the world where your child can go on a subsidized educational program, and for you not to break your bank account in terms of the budget that you have sidelined for your child's higher education. So think of it from that perspective, and then see if the merits of sending your child abroad work out or not. Many people see education as a means to an end. It's not just about getting your child educated and being a full, well-rounded, personality with a breadth of knowledge about the world. It's more about, can my foreign degree be monetized? So if that's the equation, then you also have to do the math that what are the doors that would open up with your child getting a qualification, BA qualification abroad, and is that worth it? And would that lead him or her into a job market? And would you be comfortable with your son or daughter working abroad and becoming part of the expat community? Sorry, not an expat for a different country, but you as part of the brain drain of Pakistan.
Thank you, Shehryar. Thank you very much. And I just want to add to that a quick point before we go to Shanza, that we want to make it really okay for families to feel that it's okay for their kids to go to college in Pakistan. There are now good options emerging, and a lot of times, kids and families are feeling that if my child is not going abroad, they're missing out on this experience and exposure in life. I know that between the three of us, we have 8 to 10 degrees from America, but they were earned in very different times. And Shanza, I'd love to get your thoughts as well on the same question. For applying to colleges abroad, where do I just begin? What are my first 3 steps?
So, Ali, I'll break it down very simply. The way we approach this process for any student is first to see what exactly do you want to study? What is your academic passion? What subject do you want to study, whether it's at the bachelor's level or at the master's level? And then what is the ranking of universities globally for that particular subject area? Let's take a specific example. Let's say I want to study engineering. What are the top universities, top 100, 200, 300 in the world for engineering? Why am I looking at such a broad spectrum? Because we are so used to seeing what are the top 10, what are the top 20. We know 8 or 10 names, Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, Yale. We're very comfortable in that zone, but we're not willing to explore what else is out there. Now, the backup, or the other part of the equation is, what is the highest ranked university, or what are the highest ranked universities in engineering for Pakistan? Currently, it's NUST. So NUST for engineering specifically is ranked around 280 in the Times Higher Education. If you look at it overall, it's actually the number 1 ranked university in Pakistan at around 354. So the idea is, can I get into a university ranked better than the best one in Pakistan and pay less than the best one in Pakistan? That should be your yardstick. And when you go down that process and when you pull out these rankings, and globally speaking, there are 2 organizations that I recommend any student or parent uses. One is Times Higher Education. The other is QS Top Universities. They're very good when it comes to global rankings. Obviously, when you're looking at country-specific rankings, if you're looking at the US, there's US News. If you're looking at the UK, there's The Guardian. But globally, these are the 2 ones I would recommend. So you begin...
Shanza, because I know many parents will want to know this, could you repeat Times Higher Education, and can you just
QS Top Universities ranking. So these are the two global ranking organizations which will give you ranking of universities by subject area. And that is what you really want to look at. You don't want to look at a university just overall, but in the area that you wish to study. So continuing with the engineering example, that's the first thing you bring out. You then see, where do I stand? Where does my child stand in terms of their grades, their background, their financial need? The 2 most important things that I've found when I speak to parents in Pakistan, they want to know how good is the education of that particular university, what is the least amount I can pay. That is essentially the yardstick of a typical Pakistani parent, which is actually spot on. And so when you go down this list, if a parent comes to me and says, Shanza, I have a budget of $10,000, and this is all in for anywhere in the world, I know that there are certain countries we won't even talk about. We won't even talk about the UK, even if, let's say, 15 universities are in the top 100 for engineering, because the UK is known for being financially stingy when it comes to undergraduate education. So I will discover, by the way, this is something we already know, but if a parent wants to do this exercise on their own, and we actually teach students, such as those at PsyCAS, how to do this exercise on their own, you put in certain filters. So for instance, if a university is teaching a course in a language other than English, we would take it out. So if a German university is teaching in German, we would take that out. If a Chinese university is teaching in Mandarin, we would not consider it. However, you will stumble across gems. And when I say gems, so on the engineering example, you will see that there are 6 universities of Hong Kong in the top 150 in the world. Once again, ranked way better than NUST. And they can access 100% merit scholarships based on just their academics, no extracurriculars required, and as well as access the Belt and Road Scholarship, which is an agreement between Hong Kong and Pakistan. So the idea being...
Shanda, just on that question, if I can just ask you, because you mentioned scholarships and parents have a lot of questions on scholarship, can you just quickly tell us what is the difference between merit-based and need-blind scholarships?
Sure. So merit-based scholarships are those where a student is being assessed simply on their grades. This would be either their O-level or A-level grades, intermediate grades, whatever, examination system they have been a part of. Depending on the country, merit-based scholarships can also be associated with your SAT score. So in America, certain universities will take into account your SAT grades along with they will convert your grades into a GPA. So that is essentially merit-based scholarships. You also have special scholarships available. So for instance, it could be for sports, it could be for the performing arts, whatever that case may be. Financial need is when a scholarship is being given to a family because their income level is below what a university expects a family to contribute towards their child's education. There is a specific formula that American universities use. A key change this year has been, and so this is bad news for all of us sitting out there, is that till this year, expected family contribution was being assessed on the basis of income. This year, they have changed the calculus to include assets. So if you have a plot of land somewhere, which is how many Pakistanis tend to save, that is now also going to come into consideration and hurt us.
Okay. Not a very positive note to end that answer on, but thank you, Shanza. Can you sort of, it's an ancillary question because I want to, round out the topic on scholarships abroad. Just simply two parts to this. How can I increase my chances of getting scholarships abroad? Number one. Number two, can you talk about the differences just very briefly between sort of scholarship eligibility requirements across the UK, US, Canada, and Europe? Just broad stuff.
So in terms of increasing my chances of getting a scholarship abroad, this really varies from country to country. If I'm looking at Asian countries, for example, countries like Singapore, countries like Hong Kong, countries like South Korea, scholarships are essentially merit-based completely. And many universities will have the formula given on their website. So University of Hong Kong will say, I require 5 A stars if you want 100% scholarship in your A levels. That entire calculation is given on their website. The US, for instance, scholarships are primarily on the basis of need versus merit. So when organizations like ourselves typically put out that a student has gotten 70K per year or 55K per year, frankly, that's assessed on the basis of need for the most part. There are university scholarships, like Vanderbilt has special full tuition scholarships associated on the basis of merit. Those are by far much more competitive. Students have to write additional essays to access those. UK, as I mentioned, not a great country if you're looking at full scholarships particularly. There are a few here and there, but they're far between and once again, largely associated with merit. Canada is a much more interesting situation. They have the top universities there, for instance, University of Toronto, as well as the University of British Columbia, do have a full ride scholarship available. However, a student cannot apply for them directly. They have to be nominated by their school. A school can nominate only one student. And so just think about it. Nomination does not mean you're actually going to land that particular scholarship. And so if you just look at the numbers, University of Toronto last year awarded around 40 students the full tuition scholarship. UBC, around the same numbers. This is globally. This is not just for Pakistan. So then the next level of scholarship becomes a departmental scholarship and so on. The most generous country in terms of scholarships out of the ones you mentioned, it's the US. The least generous, the UK. But once again, if you take a global approach, you will find the hidden gems in Asia and in
Shanza, I think you're going to have many parents asking you to do a session on non-US, UK, Europe, and Canada universities soon. So be prepared for that. Shehryar, is it okay if we come to you now? I have two
Sure.
questions somewhat related to each other that I want to just piggyback off of each other, and you answer them however you're comfortable. The first is, how can I build a strong profile for Ivy League colleges? And for parents' information, Shehryar, please forgive me if I'm not supposed to share this, but I think it's okay. Shehryar is an interviewer for Dartmouth College, a representative of Dartmouth in Pakistan. So he helps them meet students. So Shehryar, in sort of from that hat, the students that you see being successful, what are some common things in their profile as well as in your own profile when you applied? That's number one. And number two is, when you're actually at a competitive college like that, what skills will you need in order to be successful, which you can practice today when you are in high school?
Okay, so multiple parts to each question. I went to college, in the late 90s, at least for my undergrad, and then mid 2000, I went for my master's. So different time than what it is now. Thankfully, by virtue of being associated with the Dartmouth admissions, I see a lot of current generations of students applying, and I get to see their caliber and what universities are, what kind of student they typically do admit. So just in terms of the Ivy League, I think that's, it's just a terminology sort of irks me sometimes. Ivy League is just a sports league that was founded way back when amongst a select group of colleges in the northeast of the United States. But there are many schools which are Ivy equivalent, which don't fall under the Ivy League: Stanford, MIT, Caltech. They're a lot of them. Yes. So I'll just answer the question in the context of getting into a top 20 school in the US, for example. So, what I say is not going to be rocket science. These are things that any Google search, any Chat GPT conversation can spew out as well. You need to be top in academics. You have to show your extremely strong academic standing, having done O levels, A levels, or an IB qualification. Any internationally recognized qualification definitely supports your case. It doesn't mean that you're automatically excluded if you've done FSC and then applying abroad. You can definitely have that as well, as long as IBCC gives you an equivalence. But of course, by virtue of certain qualifications being internationally recognized, you have an advantage. You have to have a strong extracurricular foundation as well. You have to show a number of areas where you have spent your time meaningfully aside from academics, and you have to show a certain well-roundedness. For the top 20 school, there has to be a certain X factor that goes alongside those extracurriculars. It's not just being a jack of all trades, participation here, participation there. You have to, rise to the top of whatever extracurricular that you're doing and demonstrate consistent passion for that particular extracurricular. What makes you stand out?
Can you illustrate some examples, like what some students who have successfully matriculated, yourself included, what was that X factor that you were seeing in students?
So, it's difficult to say. There's no formula. There's absolutely, for the US schools, I mean, again, your conversation is targeted for the US in particular, which has a very different criteria for admission than the top UK schools or top maybe Australian or Canadian schools. The US schools, typically students go after 12 years of education, and they're not very cut and dry about why they admit certain students and why they don't admit others. Even when I'm applying to interviewing for Dartmouth, I'm oftentimes surprised why they've taken a certain student and why not the other. There's no way for me to calibrate why one child gets in and the other doesn't. And there's a lot of variation in terms of when a certain college takes in many Pakistani students and some years in which they take none. So there's a lot of volatility in their decision making, and it's very hard and frustrating for students and parents to eye the Ivy Leagues and then get disappointed for no fault of their own, just because it was the admission officer didn't prize their application over another. So, but in terms of what X factor, just to throw out some examples, if you've won and let's say declamation competition, which was a high-profile declamation competition, that will set you apart. I know IB organizes some foreign competitions as well with the UK government, with the UK sponsored competitions. If you win one of the top prizes there, you could arguably say that you have an edge over the other applicants by virtue of having shown success in international competition. In our school, debates takes a lot of it's considered the gold standard of the extracurricular. So if you make it to the Pakistan team for debates, or even are shortlisted for the Pakistan team, or you help your team get to the final stages of the nationals, or you were a semi-finalist or the finalist, or ranked in the top 5 speakers in the country, those are some of the things that can set you apart. But like I said, there's no guarantee that those things will give you that edge. It has to be a well-rounded profile. You have to show other traits, such as being I can go on and on. It's a very lengthy conversation what profile kids should have, but you have to be a caring individual as well. You have to show volunteer work, meaningful volunteer work. These days, what I've seen, what has for example, if you're passionate about, if you're showing interest in the medical field, or in any sort of pure science related field, having had a volunteer experience or a practicum that leads to your buttressing your support for a particular area of study, that definitely helps your cause. Some kids who were successful also sort of associated themselves with college professors and writing research papers, or conducting research and then publishing a research paper. Shanza will also talk to you about that there are certain organizations, Lumiere, for example, sorry, I'm pronouncing it wrong, also helps guide students with their research assignments. And some of these research projects are costly. They are cost intensive. So the moral of the story is that if you are craving a top-notch admission in the US school, you have to spend money before you even go there. Don't expect that I'm not going to make any investment aside from my child's school tuition, and expect him to outshine the competition. Any money that you spend meaningfully that will get him that will make your child's CV look good is money well spent, in my opinion. So the rest should be targeted to your child's interest. It should not be imposed. It should not be cushioning the resume by adding fluff stuff. It should be real stuff that you can demonstrate authentic passion for. And a lot of these things which are sort of surface level, just to make your written application look good, they sort of fall apart when your child comes for an alumni interview. So it's not just about walking the walk. It's also about talking the talk. Your son or daughter has to know how to market themselves to an admission officer, to an alumni, how to impress them, what would make them stand out vis-a-vis the kind of students that are found in these universities. Can you fit that mold of an Ivy League student that we typically find in the West? So there are many layers to this, and I'm happy to elaborate later. But in a nutshell, I think I would want to say that. I don't know if I touched on the second question, the skills. I think I sort of rolled it into one. But I think the second question was about what skills I should be focusing on. I think all education now is skill-based. Gone are the days where knowledge reigned supreme, where knowledge was the most important aspect. It's still very important, but it's this your child's communication skills, the creativity that he can demonstrate if he's an artist or an actor or of any sort. How much of a team player? What are does your son or daughter have leadership qualities demonstrated in the high school that they attended? Were they part of the student council? Like if somebody's a head boy or a head girl of a school, and that definitely adds value to your application and shows that leadership is one aspect that you've got covered in your CV. So those are some of the things that I can sort of say and narrate from experience.
Thank you, Shehryar. And just very quickly, speaking about the X factor that Shehryar mentioned, in my last sort of year as high school principal, the 4 students that got into top 20 schools, one was a champion in robotics, the other was an excellent basketball player, the third was the editor of our school magazine, and also on the student council, and the fourth was an exceptional theater artist. And so, I hope this goes to show that there is not any one type of profile or interest that universities are looking for at the top level. They're looking for you to actually excel and be passionate about the thing that you really care about. So thank you for that, Shehryar. Shanza, I'm going to ask a quick question and then perhaps a not so quick one. The quick question is, in your experience, what countries offer the most financial aid to Pakistani students?
It's the US.
And
So
other
which
than the 4 that we've discussed.
other
than the 4 that we just the name that come off the top of your head that parents are not even thinking about, because we're thinking about these 4.
Netherlands, Italy, and Germany.
Excellent. Perfect answer. Thank you. What about Turkey? A lot of parents are thinking about Turkey these days.
And Turkey also offers a lot of generous financial aid to Pakistan. Here is the thing about Turkey, and if you do the exercise that I had mentioned in the earlier part of this discussion, when you look at rankings first, you will see that most Turkish universities, the more highly ranked ones are their public ones. The public universities in Turkey still tend to teach in Turkish, and they're phenomenally cheap. So the tuition costs for them are like $2,000 per year, which is less than what you would pay for LUMS, by the way. And it's an excellent education. However, the medium of instruction is Turkish. So I'm going to put that to the side. For private universities where the medium of instruction is English, you are then looking at universities like Koç, Sabancı, Kadir Has, all of these. And frankly, the rankings of these vary depending on the subject area. So I would actually argue that for some of these, the ranking of Pakistani universities are better. It depends what you are looking for. If I have a student of mine who's gotten into LUMS versus Koç, I would tell them go to LUMS.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Very helpful. I just want to mention Turkey because I have 2 people actually pretty close to me who studied engineering at the Middle Eastern Technical University, the public university Shanza mentioned I believe it's in Ankara, and in Turkey. And both of them picked up Turkish, and neither of them had any, sort of exposure to Turkish before. So based on just this very small subset of very bright, maybe we can consider some non-language ones as well. I know my students have successfully done that, Pakistani students in Germany as well before. Thank you, Shanza, for that. So Shanza, this is the more complicated question, probably the last one we'll have time for before we go to Q&A. What is the right path for studying bio-related fields like psychology? Should students first get an MBBS, or can they go directly into undergrad for biotechnology, psychology, sociology, and these types of fields?
So it depends where you're applying, and it depends on your long-term program. The vast majority of countries would allow you to enroll directly into majors such as psychology. By the way, I think what confuses students sometimes is whether I wish to go for a Bachelor of Science in Psychology or a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology. You'll actually have universities offering sometimes both. The one which is more focused on STEM, if you have a STEM-related background, you want to approach it as a Bachelor of Science. If you have an arts-related background, you want to go for a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology. You don't need an MBBS in order to do psychology. You don't need an MBBS in order to do biotechnology, or even for that matter, biotechnology or bioengineering. These are all separate fields. Oftentimes, in fact, if a student is, let's say, unable to, I see many families, if a student is having issues getting into med school in Pakistan, then their backup plan is to do something like bioengineering or biotechnology in a university abroad. So that's usually the conversation that we're having with parents.
I think this is all the time we have for prepared questions. My or like questions that shared in advance. My team is sharing with me a lot of other questions that parents have asked. So these are quick hits. Shehryar, first one probably for Shanza. Shehryar, second one very relevant to you. Shanza, what is early decision, early action? Should my child go for it?
Most of my answers will have the economist response. It depends. Early decision is both of these terms you will only hear in relation to the US, both early decision as well as early action. There is also restrictive single early action if you want to make it even more complicated. So, early decision is when you commit to going to a university. If you are accepted, you can only apply to, by the way, one university for ED. If you're accepted, you are bound to go there. You cannot, let's say you apply to one university ED and you apply to 5 universities EA. You can apply to multiple universities in early action. You get into all 6 of them, you have to go to the one which you applied for early decision. So it must be your clear choice. The disadvantage of early decision, or like the only thing you need to be careful about, it should meet full demonstrated need, because if you land up with an aid package that is significantly below what you expected to pay, you're in trouble. The other thing about early decision and just the early cycle in general, we really, really strongly recommend all parents and students to apply in the early cycle. Up to 65% of a class size is now filled by ED. EA is simply early action. It means you apply to universities in the early cycle. You can apply to multiple universities under EA, but you are not bound to go there if you are accepted. So there are multiple ways how one can slice this. The Ivy Leagues offer restrictive single early action, which means if you apply to me, Harvard says, you will apply to no one else except a public university. So the UCs, so for instance, are public universities. So that means you are taking that calculated risk that I'm trying to maximize my acceptance rate by applying in early cycle, but know that this is a risk you're taking. And if you're not accepted, you usually find out around 15th to 20th December. So the timelines are very important, with the regular decision cycles coming up anywhere Jan 1st to Jan 15th. So then you have another 10, 15 universities whose supplements you have to prepare for in a matter of 2 weeks.
Excellent. Thank you, Shanza. That was a very comprehensive answer, especially the last bit on restrictive single early action. Love it. Shehryar, my next question is for you. My child plays sports at the national level. In your experience, have you seen Pakistani students get admitted based on sports-based scholarships?
I have, but with the caveat, I think it depends on the sport. If your child is a national level cricketer or football player, cricket does not anything that translates to a varsity sport, you can have an edge.
Can you tell us what varsity means? Sorry.
The varsity means the sports that the university offers at their intercollegiate level. Which is an official sport, recognized sport. I think cricket would be a club, let's say. So if your child is an excellent cricket player, you may want to apply to the UK because they're the varsity support cricket. So you can get a list of all the varsity sports online, and you can see if your child is qualifies for those or not. For I think the question that, for example, asked a tennis playing child, like I play tennis as well, but and I played at a high level, but it's very, very difficult to get admission on the basis of your tennis prowess. It can help your application as a well-rounded thing, but now it's a very specialized arena. Like you would have to apply directly to the universities, get in touch with their coach. You have to make a video profile, a video, short video that demonstrates your skill in that particular sport, and then hopefully you can impress them with your skill set that the coach sort of initiates your application, that I want this child to be part of my team. And for tennis and golf, there are a number of, it's rare that a university would take on an international student. They typically recruit from within the United States because there's such a vast pool to pick from. So why should they even look internationally unless the child has shown international level merit, which is rare, but it is still doable. And then and typically I know the students who get to the very high level, let's say you're ranked in Asia or you've won a few junior ITF tournaments. I mean, those are kids. And for example, we have a student at SciCas, Bilal Asem. He's a good student, but you have to be a scholar athlete. I always use this term that you have to be a scholar first and an athlete second. And Bilal is struggling very hard, or he's striving very hard, not struggling. So far he's done very well. He's acing his O levels, and he's one of the top juniors in Pakistan. And he's represented Pakistan in the Davis Cup as well. So those are things that would nudge him into a strong university placement on the basis of his sporting success. Having a recommendation written by a prominent coach or a player also helps your cause. I think in the case of Bilal, we might get a recommendation from Isamul Haq that will bolster his case and demonstrate his rankings, which are backed by Pakistan Tennis Federation. The federations then also have to back you. So if you're a tennis player, you have to get something in writing from the federation that what your child's ranking is, and make your whole case for yourself why a coach of a particular sporting team in a university should consider you over others. So
Great.
There's a different pathway for that that you have to go through.
Thank you, Shehryar. I'm going to end it with the last question. Either of you can answer. I'm asking this question even though we're pressed for time, because many parents are facing this question in our WhatsApp group and in the chat. So the question is, will universities look disfavorably at my child's profile if they choose to change their subjects after O levels? So if they're studying, let's say, medicine related subjects for the O levels, and they choose engineering or computer science related subjects, how will universities approach that?
Is it for me or for Shanza?
Either of you, whoever feels comfortable. Shanza, why don't you go ahead? We haven't heard
Shanza, go first. I'll add on.
Sure. So, in terms of if they are going to look at it disfavorably, the short answer to this is actually no. So let's say that you took science-related subjects in your O levels, and you are now taking social sciences in A levels. The alignment has to be, or the narrative that has to be straight is, the subjects you took in your A levels are aligned with what you intend to apply for at the undergraduate. This is particularly true for the UK. So if you're applying, let's say, to business, highly ranked universities will often ask you to take math at the A level. So you want to make sure that you're meeting those particular requirements. Canada is the same way. The US, you actually have a lot more maneuvering room. Once again, the more your A level or BP subjects or subjects that you took in 11th or 12th grade are aligned with what you are building your narrative for. And I use this phrase, building your narrative, because in the US, you actually have even more time. Once you get accepted, you have till the end of your sophomore year to declare your major in most universities. But in order to get in, I tell parents, you must have a cohesive narrative. You can't come across as, I'm figuring my life out, I'm undecided. That's a privilege that is given to us, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, which none of us are at the table. So we have to come across that we really know what we wish to do. So I think the hardest challenge, or the cases I've seen where people struggle, is when parents push their child to take, let's say, medicine related or science related subjects, both in the O and A levels, and then say, okay, now you're fine to apply for a business degree. Technically, yes, you can do that in America, but you're not let's say you're applying to Ann Arbor. You're not going to be as competitive a candidate versus another kid who took business in O and A levels, who perhaps has made their own startup, whose entire narrative is about how passionate he is about business, versus the student who's like, I now want to study business, but he has nothing supporting in his past to back up that statement.
Thank you, Shanza. Shehryar, do you want to add something? And then
No,
I'm
I think
gonna close.
she covered it all. And to summarize, the answer is no. Like, you can, in the US in particular, it's not disadvantageous. For the UK, you have to look at it from a different perspective. There are certain doors. If you switch to, let's say, from science to business in A levels, O levels doing science and business in A levels, then in the UK it could close. There are certain requirements for certain British UK universities what A level subjects they require. So for the US, no. For the UK, maybe. That's my answer.
Sounds good. Hey, thank you very much. I apologize once again for the difficulties in the beginning. Thank you so much to Ms. Shanza Khan and to Mr. Shehryar Salamat for joining us, for giving us of their time and their expertise. We hope to have you back for future subsequent webinars. Recordings will be available if you want to watch them and share them with your children. And now today's session was intentionally very open-ended. We wanted to have very beginning thoughts from experts in the field. In the future, we'll do sessions with more deep dives, such as sort of outside of these 4 main countries, colleges, and how to write an excellent personal statement, and so on and so forth. So we'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz and good night, everyone. Eid Mubarak.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you, Ali.